I think it's really important for kids to get up, get in front of people. That's stress inoculation right there. When I have to stand up in front
Yeah.
of people and have people watch me, it really gives them confidence.
Hello, this is the FormABLE Podcast. My name is Jamie Sparling, and I have Miss Deana Larsen here with her daughter Miranda, who are a mother-daughter team influencing and teaching the martial arts in Michigan at Chain Reaction Martial Arts. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Actually, it's Minnesota. You said Michigan.
Minnesota. Did I say that? Yeah, once
Yeah.
again, I'll take geography for 200 check. That's not the first time that has happened here on the podcast. You know Mr. McTully, right?
Yes.
Yes, I said he was in Dublin. I was off by a country. Okay, Miranda, that's not good. Okay, that's not good to be off by a country. So, how are things going today here?
It's great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Miranda, what's it like to do martial arts with your mom?
It's honestly pretty great because we get to travel to different places and just show off what we do.
Yeah, that's great. You've been able to go and meet some of the instructors and have those experiences and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how old are you now?
16.
16. All right. Deanna, what's it like to have your daughter by your side as you empower women and just do all the wonderful things that you do at the martial arts school?
I think it was just always my dream. When I was pregnant, I was teaching. My husband's trained with me, but I think he was kind of happy to have her come along and kind of take that part over so he didn't have to do it. He likes training, but he likes hunting and fishing or just helping out with the
Mm-hmm.
gym. It's just really fun. It's a different dynamic. You see a mother and daughter teaching, and so inspires, empowers, and it just gives her the legacy to just keep going, to keep training and go whatever direction she wants. And it's really fun. We get to be together. I love hanging out with her, so it just makes life easy. So
Yeah. Do you find, Miranda, that especially the smaller kids and the children in the children's program get inspired when maybe you go up and do a demonstration?
are you inspired?
Yes.
You might have to say it out loud.
Oh, I'm so
You know,
sorry.
maybe thinking.
Yeah, no. Like the children's program, right? You being a teenager and being in front of them and I imagine showing your stuff every once in a
Yeah.
while. Do you find that that inspires them?
Yes, I think so because one of them has gone to a competition and she did very well at it.
Yeah. What kind of competition did you guys do?
It was in South Dakota. Me and her did like a little demonstration.
Yeah, that's great. Here at our school, we're gearing up for some different competitions and different things, and a great many people here in our area. Competition's very big, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
have as much experience, and what we do is very different. So that's
Yes.
really neat that you guys put together a demonstration.
Yeah, so when obviously you do Kali or Filipino martial arts, it doesn't always fit the cookie cutter. I mean, we definitely have sometimes the weapons portion that people really like.
Mm-hmm.
So fitting it into rules of other arts can be difficult. Like she's done, let's say, a weapons form of the Diamond Nationals, which is more probably karate or sport oriented
Mm-hmm.
that way, versus maybe the way they do things look different. So you have to fit the narrative of the rules. The one thing I love about Call, I love putting together demos and performance pieces. Every year I choreograph something new for the year. We have what's called a kick and stick. We actually created an in-house tournament and performance each year. So that way they can show what they do and have competitions with what they do. So, and then we try to find other avenues to travel to compete in. It's kind of hard,
Mm-hmm.
something that makes sense for them. So again, that's not easy. I give you props if you can find something sometimes,
Sure, it's
just because
hard.
it is different. It's hard, but the part's fun. I mean, the choreography and doing fights is just so. I mean, honestly, it's fun. We love doing demos. We love doing performances. It's probably one of our favorite things to do. So
Could you tell us a little bit about the kick and stick? That sounds really unique.
so I started this current school during COVID. And so once COVID happened, we had to come up with something that would make sense. They couldn't really like spar or something. They couldn't be that close to each other. So we're like, what can we do for people? What can we show so the kids can actually compete? So like they'd have a kick contest, board breaking, and then performances with weapons. And so everybody could come watch, but then they could at least compete against each other. I think it's really important for kids to get up, get in front of people, and that stress inoculation right there. When I have to stand up in front of people and have people watch me, it really gives them confidence. And then it's fun too. It's fun to compete against your peers. So we just kept doing it each year and then just tweaking it each year as we go. We just called it the kick and stick, and it just stuck. And we just do it every year, and we try to make it better each year. And it's just an in-house thing we do, and we just do it once a year, and it's great. We love it.
That's great. I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit about that one because, as we were saying earlier, sometimes for what we do, it's hard to find those particular avenues to do those demonstrations or have a competition. And I also toyed with the idea of just doing one ourselves. And
Yes, if you need help with that, I'll help you.
I really,
Do
really,
mine every year. I will, whatever you need, I'll help you with that because it really helps us because then we have something and the parents can come watch. Like if you go to other sports, they might have or if kids like dance, they go to recital.
The parents really enjoy it.
Yeah, they really like it. And it gives them a chance to take pictures and video, and they get to enjoy those parts of sports that other parents have. And so we give that flavor. Plus it's fun and it gives them specific goals to work on or work towards when they're not maybe on a belt or some type of skill that they're working on. So
yeah. And the first, what does Guru say? The first part of pressure testing is peer pressure,
yeah,
right?
peer pressure. Yes. When they get in there and then then they just want to do more. So it's just they have something. They don't have a concept of time. So when they're working towards stuff like that, that's why competition's fun or performance is fun. So you have both. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, I think it's really, really, really important. And we just did a demonstration and it went great. And I was surprised to see the growth in the students before and afterwards, right? That was a really neat thing to do. Traditional martial arts does that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They just do. So I think that's something that maybe that we need to add to what we do as well to give them that avenue.
Well, and sometimes there's an educational piece, like you do CLOT, you can show the CLOT or you can show the pure part of each art and people can actually see it. There's sometimes is an educational piece in the arts we train in and they have to really see it. And it's great for advertisement and it's great. Your marketing budget can go right there. It's just tons of pictures. People love it. It adds more value. And we have like the kids and it's mostly the kids, but we'll have the adults. They'll do stuff too. We'll do demos all together. It's just fun. And you throw some music in there and you choreograph something. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can never say that enough.
Yeah, that sounds really, really neat. How many kiddos do you have in your program? And I know you teach adults as many, across the spectrum, so many different arts as well as age groups and people. But how many kiddos do you have? And then what are the ages?
So I only have about 30 children. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
huge program. So I have ages from 4 to 15, probably 14. Sometimes my older kids will end up in the adult program, but usually stays around 30. And I'm kind of fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I do some private lessons with families, but usually it stays around 30, which works out pretty good. It's a healthy number.
Yeah. And you do the double stick as well and all those different
With
things?
kids, I do like single stick, and usually it's
Okay.
an action stick.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when they're older, they can move to rattan.
Usually
Usually,
just usually focus on that.
yeah. So like when they're younger, they just will focus on the MTN. Once they're about 7, they can do stick, and then they'll start learning palm stick as well. As it depends on like where they are in the progression. More advanced students do more things like sparring and double stick and rattan. Once they read at a certain level, then I give them rattan sticks, and they start doing more double stick. some people start with it right away, but it kind of depends on where you start your age and your program, the
Mm-hmm.
maturity. Are they going to whack somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Safety wise is a big thing. Now you have an impact weapon versus a soft stick if it just cracked you in the head. So those are some of the things we look at.
You're a big proponent of the palm stick, too.
Yes.
I really
Yes.
like that, and that is not always something that folks see as much value in. How?
Well, if you want more show, so what's nice about a palm stick is it's not frightening. You can use flashlight. You can look at other things like you think a remote control or a water bottle if you're teaching self-defense. But teaching those drills, let them. I don't teach edge weapons to kids, but I like to give them some kind of skill in that, even though it's more of like an impact weapon. So when they get older, I can teach them these other skills and the stick as well. So you might have kids that move into stick class. I think it's a great transitional weapon in between a stick and a dagger. It gives them some of those skills and they understand it. And it's just easy. It's cheap. I love it. It's easy for me. Sometimes parents are just not quite sure about the whole weapon thing. They can maybe start
Yeah.
like an empty hand class and move to that. The palm stick doesn't seem so kind of overwhelming. Not everybody, but sometimes people are not sure about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty versatile weapon.
Yeah. So learn the strike. They can learn striking with it, patterns with it, hitting bob with it. They love hitting bob, and understanding kind of use of force. And like you're just not going to go up and hit this, just hurt someone. Just understanding what they do, the impact, even legally, can be taught at a young age. So as an instructor when you're in school, you have to think of these things because it's
Yeah.
just I'm now if it's family, I'm going to teach edge weapons to Miranda early. So it's family or close friends. But as a school, I just kind of had to make some decisions on what's age appropriate. Some people it's different.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's fascinating. Most people don't always equate it to the route to the dagger. And that is very old school to give them the skill and the implement with the impact weapon, and then later be able to show all the different attributes that can really come out of
right.
that particular tool. That's absolutely brilliant. Miranda, what is your favorite area of Kali? What's like your weaponry? Huh?
Probably the rattan. I really enjoy the rattan, especially double stick.
Especially double stick? Yeah, what's your favorite part of it? I mean, do you just like learning the patterns? Do you like the footwork piece?
I like the footwork as well with it because there's so much footwork you can do with double stick.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that the footwork in the weaponry really helps in your empty hand?
Yes,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like targets.
When it comes to, I'm sorry?
To targets.
To targets, yeah. Well, we talk about that at our school too. It's really important to be able to get away from something and to something, right? Exactly. And if we can do the same, those two things at the same time, that's always much, much better. So, what days do you teach? How do you structure working with Miranda?
I teach Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. A lot of my programs are heavily on Monday and Tuesdays, and then Thursdays, like I have like my Little Warriors, women's kickboxing, and private lessons. She's with me in all my classes. She's assisting demoing, or if we split off into groups, like if we have beginner and advanced. Sometimes we have a smaller class and they're both together, we'll kind of divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're holding together. You have an extra pad holder. So she's just usually with me in all my classes. Like when I was gone in Chicago, she'll teach. So she can step in if I have to step away and teach. So she's lucky to move at such a high level. I mean, she's been training most of her life. It takes a lot to develop someone that much training. So I feel blessed, that
Yeah.
she doesn't have to be in every class. She'll be taking college courses soon. I probably won't see her as much. And other kids, it's nice. The kids are moving up in skill, so they can step in and to demo. So, or adults if they want to come and help.
What is your favorite part of the art to teach, Deanna, in any of your programs?
I think I've just always loved Kali. I mean, it's always been my mother art and favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just there's so much in the play. Just because we're playing doesn't mean we're screwing around. Just the movement and the diversity, you're working both sides. There's no like kind of left-handed, right-handed. I mean, there's leads, but it's just, you just get past some of that garbage and watching people become more athletic and start moving. It's exciting. I mean, they can start developing that skill right away. So I love calling because someone gives you something on day one. Again, depending on age. For me, like littles, like 4 and 5 year olds, they're pretty small. So
Yeah.
We sometimes don't trust them with the ball.
Sometimes I don't trust my adults with the ball. Okay,
They play ball. Like they play ball before class. I get to assess them to see, can they play with someone? Can they bounce a ball? Like, can they share? Can they talk? They're starting to develop other life skills in the class. My class is a little different. It's got the traditional piece, but it's got what I've gotten from maybe a training gym. We have music, we have mats, but we have uniforms. We talk during mat chat. Most schools you probably don't talk, but they train. So it's just, we have a different approach. And so college just makes it easy. If I have to be adaptive, I can change things if something's not working. We have our curriculum, but sometimes we'll change it each year to make it better.
Yeah.
They'll have their core and their foundation things they're learning, but if this is going to work better, we're going to do it. So it just makes it fresh and fun. And so college is that way. It's about family. It's about fun, protecting your family. And so you're just connected that way. And that's how you connect to community. The community builds. So
what I heard there, and I was telling a story the other day while teaching, just twirling 2 sticks in 2 different directions took me 3 months. And I'll never forget the first time I was in class and it actually happened. I felt like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I was like, it's really happening, guys, right? And I called out to my friends, and by the time it happened, it was over, Deanna. It wasn't happening anymore by the time they looked. But that attribute development tool,
yes,
that's so important. Could you tell us a little bit about like mat chats and the things that you address, the things that come up?
mat chat's kind of a funny time because they'll just randomly tell you things. Like, what did they eat for lunch? What are they doing? Like, sometimes we'll just have funny questions because a lot of kids don't talk. They're stuck on their phones. They don't know how to communicate. So you're teaching them how to speak up and just feel comfortable just talking to an adult or talking to their peers. Then they start raising their hands, taking turns talking, not talking over each other. They might raise their hand and then they can't remember what they're going to say, but it took them so much courage to maybe raise their hand. Then they start making friends and they start talking. I mean, we'll talk about just everything. It could be like the weather. It could be, did you play outside? I mean, we'll just kind of, school starting, they're all like, oh, they're all, sad. Just find out what's going on. I did this, I colored this today. Or, I mean, they'll just tell you random things. And then once the mat chat ends, it kind of moves more to martial arts. If you have a question that's outside of martial arts, you can tell me after class. It just lets them express themselves. And sometimes you get to see if something isn't going well.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to take a step outside of class or maybe just get some water. Maybe they're having a rough day. I mean, I've had a kid just go lay on the crash pad and just take a break, was having a rough day. Hey, you want to go lay down for a minute? Came back on and felt fine. So it's just, I don't know, maybe because I'm a mom, I can read them,
I bet.
But it lets me assess any garbage that might be out there. Like if there's anything that they're struggling with, I can find out. And so you have less distractions and interruptions. You want the class to flow. And so sometimes it feels good just to talk a little bit and they know that's when they can. So it's, or we might cover certain things that are important, like the kick and sticks coming up. We might start talking about stuff and, or what's required. It's just a time to talk about anything. So.
Do you start it off with a question to get them engaged? I'm just wondering, like the format piece, right?
Right. Like, did you get outside today? Did you go outside? I mean, it could just be a very simple question. It doesn't always have to be about martial arts. No, I didn't go outside. Or did you take your bike outside? I mean, it's just getting them. I can connect on their level, just depending on age.
It makes them more confident too.
Yeah.
With their communication.
Right.
Could you say that a little bit louder, Miranda? That's important.
Oh, it makes them more confident with their communication.
Yeah. How do you see that?
Well, they usually kind of perk up and tell us about their day and stuff. I just love hearing their little stories and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what I hear there is body language. You can tell sometimes when somebody feels heard and whatnot, and you're paying
Mhm.
attention. It doesn't have to be a big ordeal, but you can see there in their body language.
Right. Yes.
Do you enjoy kickboxing, or are you one like big into the weapons, Miranda?
Kind of both
Oh,
because I just like mixing both kickboxing and weapon together.
yeah. Have you ever done like a what others would call a traditional martial art? That's not the right way to talk about what we've always done a blend. Have you always done the blend with your mom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that's great. One quick question. What have you learned about other cultures through the martial arts that you think is just kind of neat?
Well, I learned about Bruce Lee and how just his story and how he developed his own like martial arts,
Uh-huh.
and definitely grew Dan Zano as well, and
Yeah.
just his influence over modern martial arts.
Yeah, absolutely. He's that goes without saying. Influence is a great way to put that there. Have you got to train with Guru Dan?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, that's amazing. I try to get people to go if they can. Uh, Even if they're going to be lost, I think just being in the presence of a master of anything one time in our lives is a good idea. Like, even if it was basket weaving, and I don't like baskets and I'm not into weaving, but a master could make it really interesting and I could learn a lot, you know? Uh, so, Deanna, how do you install the family ethic of Kali into your martial arts school? Because we had a great conversation the other day, and you really hit something that just struck me. You were like, well, Kali's about family.
Well, you're passing something on from, parent to child or your tribe. Um, are you teaching your family how to defend themselves? Now, some people don't like to share their martial arts with their family or personality. Sometimes that isn't easy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes other martial artists will train their kids just because there's a conflict. But I think you're doing a disservice not to pass something on to your child. It has a very combative self-defense base. You should take those things and give that to your children, your wife. I don't feel like personal safety is just for like women or just children. It's
Agreed.
everyone. We move in groups. It could be like my mother who's got dementia to like anything. If I had multiple children, what are we going to do? What's our plan? And to think about that. And so you should be, if I teach you something simple, yes, you should be giving it to someone else. And that is your job. And so it's not just us as a family teaching it. I have people, I train their whole family. I train the mom, the dad, and the 4 kids. We have a lot of families. Not that it's just a family gym, but we know how to train children. We know how to train adults. We know how to train seniors. I've trained her that way. She's taught with me in senior citizen class. People are 7 years old. Maybe they can barely walk. To small children that are 4, to teaching, corporate event and teaching. What does that look like? So for me, it's very family oriented, as in it's just the way it is. It's not as commercialized. That's why it's handed down from family to family, as you see that. That's very important. I just study, the history. So why not keep doing that? Make it that. That's just important to me.
Yeah.
Not everybody sees it that way,
Well,
but
sure
to me,
enough. Well, and what you just described there is like there are unique skill sets to teaching all of those arts at all of those ages to all of those people. Not everybody's built with that skill set, right?
right.
Even to translate the art.
Yes,
Not everybody's children will train with us maybe as much as Miranda will train with you. So hats off, Miranda.
right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think it's all our responsibility to offer it, right, and do the best that we can. And I think it's probably pretty hard for anybody to be around us too long and not to have some idea of what martial arts is and all that different stuff. But
I think
yeah.
right away the art teaches you to focus on more than one thing. I mean, you're forced into that learning type of style. So that's not usually typical of a martial art. Here you stay here, you don't really go outside of that. So you're constantly moving. You're given a weapon. It kind of goes against maybe some Eastern styles, or where you might have to earn it to get the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the West sometimes doesn't understand it. Like, what are you doing? So again, there's an educational component, and why not? You should be teaching your family. And I think it's the hardest and easiest art to teach. I feel like, I think
I
teaching
agree.
was harder. Learning how to teach college probably harder, or it was harder for me. I took time. So I think it's easier to start. It's easy to start, I think, but then as you move up, it gets a little harder to develop that skill. But it's completely possible. That's why self-defense. Self-defense, just straight up reality self-defense should be simple. You know, you should be following Bruce Lee's concepts, or Cjo Bruce Lee's concepts, and it's about you and what you need. But most people don't think about that. They think about self-defense, but when we do martial arts, like, they want it to be fun. They don't think about like violence or things all the time. People want to maybe go work out, or they want to compete, or they want to meet with their friends. So being in that mindset all the time is, some people usually don't like it. That's why it's not really super popular to think about. It's more short term versus long term.
Yeah. I like the way you describe that. Sometimes when someone comes to me and they're talking about self-defense, one of the first things I need to know is, how much time are we going to invest in this? Not trying to
Yes.
be a smart aleck, but how much time? Because if you're going to do martial art, the self-defense aspect is already going to get built in and you train. But if you're looking for, and this is probably a character defect on my end, but when I hear at least a lot of people that come to me talk about self-defense, what they really mean is, can you show me one or two tricks that I can do that I don't have to practice at all, that'll work pretty much anytime? And that's kind of a difficult thing at times.
Well, the reality is it requires you to change some of your habits and have mindset and situational awareness. That takes some skill. Some arts teach it, some don't.
Mm-hmm.
You might develop confidence, or you might yell, or you stand up and do things in front of other people, or you can hit a target. Those things are important. But from a self-defense standpoint, which we do integrate, you have to put that all in there. I feel, whether it's bullying or predators or boundaries, are you really covering those topics hard? And so that's sometimes what will distinguish when maybe someone just goes to a reality self-defense class versus long-term martial arts. And the reality is, you need martial arts methods to practice self-defense in the end. So depends on which avenue you're going to take.
Yeah. When you're putting together a program, let's say like for your family lesson, okay? What are the things that you look at when you're going to put together a particular lesson and you have people all in the same class, a family with different likes, dislikes, skills, preferences? Sometimes have a bad day if there's two kids there and maybe brother was arguing with sister prior to the lesson. Just asking for a friend. Not that that's ever happened to me, Deanna, but I just thought.
Yes, actually, family dynamics are probably the easiest to taught. We've taught a lot of group private lessons with families. A lot of times you'll be teaching the parent maybe how to hold pads to the kids. You're teaching them how to coach them and encourage them. Sometimes parents don't have that skill. They're learning alongside them. And it's something that they can share together. So you can say, okay, what can you do outside? And then you're also talking about personal safety and self-defense. What does this look outside your home? You go to the store, you go anywhere. What are you doing? And how can you work together? And then it's sometimes just goals. What do they want to accomplish? Are they, do they want a certain skill? Do they want to get ranking, like belts? Do they just want to work out together? It's really finding out what the family wants, because and unfortunately, as a business owner, you have to go with what they want, not maybe what you want them to do.
Yes.
Unless your school, a private lesson to me is different than my core curriculum, because I can go, we can tailor it more to what they want, based, which is going to be a little bit different. Or maybe they want to follow our curriculum, but they want to do it without anybody watching. I think as we get older, we don't want people to watch us train, and they want to maybe do in the privacy. They like the attention, or maybe they have a child that has special needs or needs maybe behavioral issues, and so you have to, you can isolate it without any distractions of other people. So
Yeah, that always helps. And are the parents training as well?
yes, I've had both. I've had some where they're not training, but they're just
Mm-hmm.
there for support, or like, what can I do at home? Or usually they're training. We have done that. So they're doing everything with their kids. They're warming up, they're working out, they're holding pads, they're training with them. So it's sometimes nice because now I have an extra pad holder, that's taller than me. We're both like, now she's taller than me. I'm only like 5'5", she's 5'6". That's nice. Okay. She likes to know that she's looking down at me. So I love it. I love being able to train them because now they can be the trainer. That's what you should be doing. Building the confidence, being the coach to your kids. So that's usually what happens, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. And one of the things that I like what you said, and I'll never forget hearing Guru Dan say this once, and I'm sure he said it multiple times, but he said, I've made just about every mistake that there is in martial arts. And to hear that from Guru Dan, I was like, oh, right? And there's so much trial and error in teaching and the business end, providing what the consumer student wants and making sure they get what they need.
Well, yeah, like if you're just a practitioner, or maybe you just train your family and you don't have to teach like the public,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a different animal, because now you might have to commercialize something, make it measurable, that makes sense to them. You might have to slow down a little bit. A training group versus like a large training class is just going to look a little bit different. So you have to tweak things a little bit and make it so that they're bite sized, that it makes sense to them. People aren't always used to learning that way, like maybe the way we learn, like a fire hose. And you just
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. You have to break it down where it makes sense. So it's harder. It's harder because now it's just the public, and it's not just, a small group of people, which in Kali, usually that's what it is. It's a smaller group. It's your family usually, or
Mm-hmm.
it's your friends. And they may be trained at a higher level, and you don't have to maybe worry about other challenges that way. So
Yeah. Miranda, what do you think about learning from, like, drinking from the fire hose of martial arts?
I think it's great because I get to learn so many things and just so many different arts, and I get to use that to my own advantage.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Sometimes it's overwhelming, right? And I think well, at least I've been on the both sides of the overwhelming part of it, but being introduced to that at a young age, I'm really interested to see how that could affect your learning style, right, as you go through life. Because I just recently had a podcast with a gentleman, MKG Jacob Norden, and
yeah.
he talked about learning Kali, and that was one of the first things that made sense, and that really helped him in his learning style in school and his job and all those different things. And I felt the same way, most
I think what's
definitely.
interesting too is that a lot of different arts have similar things, but just do it kind of differently.
Yeah, definitely, because of the culture, quite possibly, right? Or the terrain, right? So many different pieces. That culture aspect is really, really important to look at. Deanna, you were involved in martial arts at an early age, a more traditional martial art
Yes.
approach, as well as you had visited a karate college, which I've read about that event and I think it's fascinating. Could you tell us a little bit about growing up in the martial arts school and that transition there?
Yeah. So I started sport karate when I was 11 years old, and I competed in tournaments in the Twin Cities. And that was just a lot of fun. I mean, your uniform, you have your belt, it's
Mm-hmm.
traditional. So that was a lot of fun. It was, just went on forever until I was about 16. So when I was 16, I heard from a friend about karate college, and I wanted to get better. I wanted to travel more and go to other tournaments and be better at fighting. So I learned how to more kickboxing and point fighting from Joe Louis and Bill Wallace, which were amazing.
I
Oh my
bet.
gosh, it's sad Joe Louis is gone, and Bill Wallace, he's older now, but man, they were literally amazing. And it just wanted me to do more. I wanted to elevate and to travel and fight. And I don't know, I came back and I was just hungry for more. Like it wasn't enough. And so I think at that time I had to want to move on to something else. And that's kind of where the Collie just switched gears. It was completely different. Where someone knows my ranking, they know who I am. I have to be a certain way. You train in this style. And then once it's all gone, it's always good to start over. It really is.
Yeah.
You should always just keep starting over. I probably get bored easily, so I like doing new things. Like we want to get more defensing. We're just looking at some other things we want to do personally, personal development.
More gear as well.
Yeah, more gear. And so I think once you stop learning or you stop like growing, I think you just kind of die on that hill. So that's where when I'm teaching, I have to combine both aspects. Like the public has to know, where you stand, what you're doing. And so I'm lucky I got to combine both flavors, the traditional part of it, with, rankings and belts, but have the fun of all the other things I did. So they get that blend. So I am fortunate that way.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. What I heard there, and correct me if I'm wrong, was karate college with the karate college event opened you up to training with more people and kind of opened your eyes to
Yes.
so much more. And we all have like those stories about the first time we realized, for me, I got to go to Atlanta and go do an Inasanto thing, an Inasanto seminar. And all I knew at the end of it is I wanted to do that forever. There was something
Yes.
called the San Miguel, which was a running attack that
Yes.
I couldn't do. And the BOG, the difference between BOG and BOSAL. 2 days,
Yeah.
that's all I remember, right? You're drinking from the water hose. But it
Right.
affected me forever.
Yeah. I was exposed to Kali there and like Muay Thai. I think I was on a certain focus, but it opened me up to all these other things. Yeah, we didn't have the internet. We saw things in magazines or maybe TV or movies.
The phone book.
Yeah, the phone book was the place where I did find the Minnesota Kali group and had to write down directions to Minneapolis and find it, So when I was about 16, I'd go to other karate schools and we'd spar. So it was just so much fun. I just had all these friends and we just spar kind of after hours. And a lot of these people became your mentors. They're older than me. I want to be them. I want to be older. And Jeff Thompson, he told me about the Kali group, and I thought, well, I have to go do it. Everything he did, I want to do. And found it in the yellow pages. I didn't know what half the stuff was. I knew what Bruce Lee was. I knew that. It's like Kali, is that a dog? I don't know. It's like I didn't know what it was. So to look up the directions, I didn't have GPS. I didn't have Google to feed me any information and go find it, and drive downtown Minneapolis and not know what I'm doing. And show up at like a boxing gym. You're wearing tennis shoes. There's no belts. It's people are pretty talented, and you're just a 16-year-old punk, showing up and thinking you can train. So it was awesome.
It sounds awesome. A 16-year-old punk, right? Yeah.
Well, I was like a punk, but you just, you're I didn't think I was anything great, but you just, you're in your own world and everybody's older. And the difference was it is adults. Like, I was lucky that they allowed me to train, I think 16 is kind of the age when you can get into adult programs in a lot of places, but they did not teach children. So that's a huge difference. Not many people teach Kali to kids. So you have to have a different approach and a different focus. And so I was lucky to be still kind of a child and experience all that. It was great. It went fast. But we were talking about Guru dance. See, that's our job, is to decipher. Like, we take it all. If we got to break it, show it to our students when they're there. Or I just tell people, if you get the first 2 moves, do not feel bad. They feel the pressure that they've got to learn like these 10 moves. It's like, if you work on the first 2, that's completely fine. but there's this pressure that I have to be a certain way. You're not going to get it. You come back, you see it again, or your instructor. That's why all the instructors are there to help you and get you through to where you're at. That's all you can do. And then you want to learn more because you're excited. You're just not, again, dying on that hill of one technique. Now you're hungry. It makes you hungry for more. So
I remember seeing a video of Guru Rick, and he talked about walking out and hearing of an Insano seminar and hearing someone say they didn't get it all. And Guru Rick was like, well, of course you didn't. You just saw Einstein. You're not supposed to get it all. You're supposed to ooh and ah, and then you get to, go home and practice, and you know where this can go in 20 some odd years, 40 years, whatever your personal, a lifetime, basically. Could you tell me, we started to talk a little bit about it, but the first time that you went to the Minnesota Kali group, then they were doing double stick, right? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was probably exactly Miranda's age when I walked into his gym. Again, it was above a Thai restaurant. You had to walk up these stairs. It was on Portland and Washington. It was dark, and there's a few windows, and it was hardwood floors, just some old wrestling mat. It had bags, a big green desk. There's like 3 chairs. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go check this place out. When I showed up, it was Guru was showing an advanced class at the time. So I think it was like George, Vanessa Larsen, and Greg Nelson, Rudy Rogers, Kurt Carlson.
Wow.
Let's see, David Leach, Tim Merrill. So you had people, they're just really skilled, very high level. And he's like, okay, we're going to warm up with double stick. I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And he's like, go wherever you want. And I thought, didn't really know what was going on. And then to see the patterns go so fast, you start smelling the rattan, 6 hits per second. And he's like, go wherever you want. And I'm like, they literally went down the hall. So I'm like looking down the hall, and I'm like, are they going to come back? They went down the stairs actually and came back, and then they came back. And Rick had this big, ugly green desk. It was like the old school desk, teachers had. They literally went over. I think they walked over his paperwork. Dunk, 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 and they came back down. I think Rick went over it too. And I was like, I was just shocked because he just desecrated the training gym to me. I just had never seen anything like it. I'm like, what are you doing? They went around the bags. They'd be on the floor. They go all the way to the ground. They come back up, and then they go down the hall again. They come back, and once they went up and over the desk, I was like, okay, sign me up. I have no idea what this madness is, but I want it. It was exciting. It was nothing that I'd never seen people move at such high levels. And I was hooked. Here I am.
That's one of my favorite stories ever of the first day of Kali that I've ever heard from anybody, Deana. Absolutely, especially with envisioning knowing your past, right? And being in a martial art where it's probably very, to a certain degree, and all that stuff's important, but you're sitting there waiting, and then they just leave, and after a while they come back over the desk.
And they were just completely on. There was no misstep, your situational awareness is that you understand the environment, you're keeping up. It was very athletic. It was such a high level, and he worked with athletes, and we were very young then too, by the way. So, I just got introduced to greatness, and I was lucky to be a part of that. So I try to kind of give that flavor back that, you're such a great teacher. He was just really fun. But, we're expected to train hard. When you'd have a class, no one really trained with me at first. Everybody get a partner, I'd be just standing there with a stick, you know what I mean? And then he'd start the next, module or whatever he was teaching. And so, but then people kind of accept you and will start working with you. So you're kind of at the mercy of people. You kind of just had to prove yourself, and, but showing up meant a lot every time you train and keep showing up. There wasn't a lot of females, but the females that were there were really good. Vicky Graff and Vicky Graff and Vanessa. Deana probably started less than a year after me. Probably she came in about 8 or 9 months after. So I met her later. But there was a few women at the gym, not tons, but a few that were there were usually pretty good. And
Yeah.
we get a lot of people from like Peasley Park. We get people from like we get like artists and we were near the college. When I went to college, that's why I chose the University of Minnesota. I was training there while I was in college too. I'd go to the day classes, then I go back to college, then I come back. I was just like a gym rat. That's all I did. So we just had such a mix of people. It was just you never know who's going to be there. So
Yeah. That's a really unique training time and a really
yes.
neat time period. Could you tell us a little about your experience also with the SIOC system? Have you done any of that?
My instructor, Guru Mike, so
Okay.
he, actually Michael Amelia, I also met probably a little bit later at Rick's gym or Guru Rick's gym.
Mm-hmm.
I've known him since I was 17. He's instructor in Guru Dan.
I know
He was
yeah.
instructor in Bikini, and he was involved in SIOC and taught SIOC. He actually had a stroke a couple years ago, so it was pretty tough. We almost thought we were going to lose him, but he's doing really good now. He still teaches
Good.
like once a week. I don't think he's active in SIOC anymore, but he taught SIOC, and he brought in like Harley Elmore, and it was really exciting to see a really high level of knife training. They have their samas and their training and instructors. It was just anytime you get into a different style, you'll just see something different. Like, I might see,
Yeah.
an Inasano blend might be, obviously you'll see Bikini and Inasano, but just see like just the pure style of maybe the family or the system. It's fun to see it. I wasn't a member, but I had done some training in it, and the blade was really good. So,
Yeah, I
um,
had seen that on some of our materials. We were going back and forth, and I meant to ask you about him and that particular experience, which you touched on a second ago, and I'm actually really interested on both your takes on this. Okay, and either way, just be 100% honest. Sometimes I tell our students that in training in a different system or style to always give it a shot because sometimes it's a martial experience. And sometimes that martial experience might be that I don't want to do that again. Right? Because there are certain things, whether it might be capoeira, maybe it could be silat, maybe it could be we just did an episode with Michelle Kuzma, and I know that you've
I
trained,
know Michelle.
yeah, and you've trained in Dog Brothers martial arts as well. But
Yes.
sometimes, or for us at our academy, sometimes it's jujitsu, right? It's not for everybody, but everybody should have an understanding to a certain degree on the ground of something, right?
Yes.
It's like you can't learn how to swim without getting wet at least once. Uh, but how do you feel about that statement I said that sometimes when you're trying something new, it's just a martial experience, and sometimes the martial experience is you might not want to do that again or super into it.
I do have a few students that train in other arts and they
Yeah.
train with me. So they might be doing karate or taekwondo at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. They have to be kind of mature enough to do both. I say always be respectful of your teachers. They paid for their training. Don't ever be rude to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very strict on that. We may do things differently. You do it their way. It's the style. That's what you're doing. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes you might find from a self-defense standpoint, maybe something we do might be more efficient, or maybe they stretch more or do certain things. We do
Yeah.
things based on what some people only have one viewpoint in martial arts. It's like you don't go to your instructor and complain, and you don't complain about me or them. It's like you show up, you train, be respectful. You're mature enough to cross train, especially if it's a child. You know, I don't have a problem with people training somewhere else. It's just a lot of times some schools have an issue with that. I could see maybe from a team standpoint if you were, training someone for like a team.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always cross trained. I just never had a problem with it. If they're mature enough to handle it, you can do it. Don't go back there and complain about me or complain about them. It's like, that happens. Sometimes they'll
All
say
the
things.
time,
And I'm like,
absolutely.
listen, they spent time. They're ranked in their system. If you don't like it, then just don't do it. It's just, you can ask why, but if you ask too many what ifs, I don't have a problem with questions, but then it's
Uh-huh.
just, we're never going to get to it. Just get in there, try it out. If you have some questions, I'll answer it the best I can and why we do things the way we do. you don't, I think Guru Mike was the best. You don't go back to your kindergarten teacher and be like, look, I can read now. Look, I have words, cat, dog. I write sentences and essays, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. So I
Yeah.
think that's some of the best advice I've ever gotten. You can take that if you'd like, you know. So that's where that's where leaving your ego, and we all have egos,
Yeah.
but it's like that's where you leave the ego part at the door. Like, don't be a jerkhole, like be respectful. Especially this generation, kids come in a lot more feisty, and it's not always good. But then they learn, they kind of fall in line. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if people question things, just because that is good. You should be inquisitive, but there comes a point where, okay, these people pay for their training, they're teaching, they're taking the time to teach you, who is not, you're not easy to train. You should be more grateful that you even have these opportunities. So I think we live in such an entitled world and give me now that we just need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. What do you think, Miranda?
I think too is that people like to think it's like a competition. See, oh well, my art has this and your art doesn't, but in reality, it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yes.
Absolutely. What I like
Thank
to say, yeah, what I like to say to some of our students, and well, I say to my wife all the time, that martial art instructor is like the only professional that someone will pay you money, get your advice, do the class, and then secretly hope that you're wrong so they don't have to do all the work sometimes. Like, like one of those, I just imagine, like, you give your money to the accountant, you don't come back and be like, what? Right? Debit that. But martial arts, sometimes it's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, or maybe people don't want to pay for fitness or yoga or martial arts. It's like you go to a movie theater, okay, $10. Well, I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? They'll just say no. It's just, if you want to offer something for free or do something, that's fine. But reality is you pay for a service,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes people can't get past that. And I've trained in groups where we brought other martial arts together, and we all taught like a portion of the seminar. I used to do that, be like Shotokan, karate, some kung fu, and it was just a lot of fun. We'd all just teach a portion, and it was great. So if you don't ever build alliances with other arts, it's just then you're just a jerk. I feel it's just the way it is.
That's just how our martial art family's kind of made. It just is. Do you find that that helps in fostering other relationships throughout your life?
Like through martial arts, like how we approach it, or
Well, so we look at Guru Asano, right? And Guru Asano has just gave so many people an opportunity to better themselves and then other folks to bring in their arts and showcase things, right? And one of the things that really I admire about him is his genuineness and ability to build relationships with people that sometimes probably, I mean, we all know sometimes they wouldn't be in the same room. But if
oh,
Guradan's there,
completely.
everybody's getting along, and that's one of those things that at different aspects of my life I strive for. And when I'm hitting that mark, I feel a little bit better. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, his father had to walk amongst many camps, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
Gurdan is teaching you, how to walk amongst many camps. What I loved about Guru Faye, like I met Paul Vunak, I met Larry Hartzell, I met Guru Dan, I met, Nino Bernardo, I met, Francis Fong, I met, all these people that just gave me a different flavor. And they're putting your ego aside to bring in, these are their teachers though. It wasn't just I train with one person. I do all the, Master Chai as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was there a lot. It's like now you have 6 new teachers and you just got used to that. I didn't really have that in my first art, not really. And until I went to the karate college, where I had different people I learned from very quickly. So I liked that. And if you can put that aside, that means you want to grow, that you're not afraid to, say this person is better than me. You can be, that's where the humble part happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you just silo yourself, you're just keeping other people from learning. If you're just like, I just do this, I'm never going to do anything else. I mean, yes, you can teach one style. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you never want to keep growing and learning or collaborating, you just stop. You just stop growing, I feel.
Yeah. sometimes I think Guru Rick sometimes talks about the when Inasanto Guru Inasanto would do the common thread era. And so he's putting a common thread through all the different arts, you know. And sometimes when I talk with people from different areas, do you ever get would people like to say, well, that person has no common sense? You know what I mean? Like that idea of common sense. But sometimes common sense comes more from common ground, maybe? That's one,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Because common sense in California is different than common sense in Wisconsin, different than common sense in Alaska. And the difference is sometimes it gets you in a lot of trouble.
Well, we live in rural Minnesota, so people might have a limited view. Maybe they only know maybe karate or taekwondo. They don't. There's educational.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just wish it was easier. Like I wish this was easy. Like I just uh, there's a learning curve sometimes. Try to keep it simple, but that's just what you. I don't know. I don't blame people for what they know. If they only know the Karate Kid or Kung Fu Panda or whatever, that's just what they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's my job to present it to them and they can decide, not worry about it. But we do have representation in film and movies, so I don't know. We do a lot of cool stuff, and it is fun to share. Like Deana Sano is in The Mandalorian, or share some of the people and what they're doing in films, because now we're relatable. It's like, hey, these are some pretty cool things, and they're like, oh wow, hey, you can learn that cool technique too if you want. And so then sometimes it's fun to share that. So it makes it more mainstream, I guess, and they understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So what person wasn't brought into martial arts by a cartoon or a movie or a superhero? It's
Mm-hmm.
very common. So if you're saying you're not, then you're lying. Deep down, we're just a bunch of geeky martial artists.
Isn't
It's
that the
true.
truth? Isn't that the truth,
you
right?
know,
And the same concept of, the yin yang, no matter what art you're doing, usually if you're in a commercial school, the yin yang's hanging somewhere. So
right,
it can't be all masculine and it can't be all feminine. So there's a time to push and there's a time to pull. And that's one thing that all of the arts agree on, right? I.e.,
right.
common ground.
Yes. Well, and you create community. I mean, I have like sometimes my adult class, I got a couple 16-year-olds and I got like a 60-year-old, like everybody's training and talk. When I come in, like everybody's coming in, they're laughing and talking together and then they're training. It's pretty cool. I mean, these completely different circles of life, different way the work, and they're all just talking and laughing. It's just there's a common ground that this is the expectation of the class. This is how we are. And I don't like drama. I mean, every place is going to have their thing, but my goal is to keep it positive and moving. Because once it just gets icky, who wants to go there? So that's the environment that I want to create. And the things that I have ran into that I stopped maybe training somewhere because I just didn't enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
anymore, just because of maybe negativity or, nothing's perfect, but I just try to avoid that when I can.
Yeah, what Guru tells us that our job is to create an environment in which the student can learn.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is. You're not going to be, I've had training partners that were very mean to me or rude, and then you just didn't come back. It's like some people just think you're being tough, where it's like these people are paying for something in class, and if you start losing students, you got to pay the electric bill, the garbage bill, people understand how much you might put into your school, and so if someone walks away, then just because you want to be the king of the turd mountain, it takes a toll on your school. So not bullying people that are new. How come you don't know that? I mean, I've just been through some things over the years, and that just happens. You get training groups and egos and people, and you have to earn your way. But it just depends on the dynamic of the school. So, but I've been lucky. I've literally known people since I was 16 years old, and then they see Miranda, and I brought her when she was like a baby and like training, and now they know her. It's just like, I go to Girl Mike's, and those people are literally hugging me. I've known them for 20, 30 years, and then they're hugging Miranda. They have their kids there. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, I don't see that many places where I've kept connections, and martial arts. My friends have probably been some of the longest, maybe a few from high school, but martial arts, I have fostered the strongest relationships, I think.
Me too.
Probably because they're built differently. They're committed, they're loyal. And sometimes their martial arts friends are closer than their own family because they get them. It's different, it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're cool, they're fun, cool people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's
We
the
sure
secret.
are, Deanna and
You know?
Miranda. We are fun, cool
This
people.
is the definition of awesome. So what,
Yes.
Well, when life is so hard, everything's coming at you. Life can kind of suck.
You can't rely on.
Yeah, you can rely on. Yeah, you can fall back on them, definitely. Yeah, you can trust people, more. They've worked hard and they've stayed in the game. And I don't know. I'll drive 3 hours to go train, Like 20 years ago when I was teaching, before you're born, I didn't teach kids. I don't think I even liked kids, really. I just taught adults. And they were a lot bigger than me. All the guys that were like 6 feet tall. So I'd bring them up to Minneapolis. We go to Mike's school. We go to jiu-jitsu. I would just martial arts extravaganza. I try to give them everything maybe I couldn't, like be with other people.
Yeah.
So I drove up there. We just train. And then we bring back the material and work it. I was very seminar style, get the material, bring it back, go back up in a few weeks. And that's what we did. So.
That's a beautiful thing. What I heard once again is kind of like that common ground piece. I have found in my life that the people that I performed with on the stage and the people I've done martial arts with are my best friends. And coincidentally, all of them have seen me make an ass out of myself. So there is a certain amount of vulnerability that comes with, Deana, can you come over here and help me? I'm going to poke my eye out with this knife in a second.
Well, I think we've all maybe during the headlights, or maybe we forgot something, or like she might remind me of something. Just, it can be anything, whether it's a demo or it's like, you didn't remember. My friend Ashley and I, we did a demo for a conference, and it was just really, the lights are on you and you're like, oh my gosh, am I gonna screw this up? And it's stressful, and like, I don't know.
So many eyes on you.
There's so many eyes on you. There's more pressure, and so it can be deer in the headlights. It doesn't matter where you're at in your training, or you're just human. And especially being women, you want to encourage other women to train. I mean, it's much more common for women to train now. It is, actually. Mm-hmm. I don't think much of it, but I remind myself that we inspire other people to train. Like, it's normal. We look pretty normal. I look like a soccer mom. She's a kid, but then they put their hands on us and they're like, oh, so it's just becoming more normal or acceptable or accommodating to train, and they should do it. More mothers, daughters, whatever it is, just to do it. And
I take my hat off.
That's our job.
Because not everybody can do it as well as you guys. Not everybody can get along that well, and I don't know what goes on in the background. But when you look around at Inosanto's seminars, not everybody can bring their kid, right? And I think that is a really, really neat experience. I brought my son at 9. He's now 21 to meet Guru, right?
Yes.
And to be honest, that was more, I think, about me geeking out and being like, I get to introduce my 9-year-old kid to my hero, who's now my instructor. It was at the very first part of my kind of a journey there as becoming an instructor. But that's really neat, and not everybody can do that, Deana. So I hope you feel good about that. That's great.
Yeah, I attended seminars with him when I was pregnant. I have a picture with him when she was little. And then when she was older, it was kind of more like to meet, and she kind of attended the seminar, but then she was mature enough to handle training in it. It's longer, taking in that much information can be a lot,
Yes.
We're like a translator, and it's going to go slower. Some people go to seminars to get more material, to connect. So once you start bringing your own students and your family, it might take away from that. So you have kind of switch gears, you're training the next generation. So it just kind of goes in like a tiered approach as she got older. So
yeah. When you go now, do you go more to connect or to get another piece, or just have the experience and see what comes of it, Deana?
Yes, and yes. When you're teaching, if you don't there's been times I've been able to go see my instructor like years at a time, even with COVID, I didn't train as much. It's a chance to fill my cup, to connect. I might watch other methods of teaching is usually what I'm looking for. There might be a better way to teach this or connect with someone. That's usually what I'm looking for. I want her to have the experiences now. And so, that's why I feel like if you go to seminar versus like instructor camp, it's going to be different. So, but you can get both or all of the above.
Wait,
And
I really it's almost like a trick question because, in my opinion, through the years, there's been different emphasis. And then sometimes it's like, now I'm just going to go for the experience. And if I get a piece that's really cool, but I want to see Guru and I want to see Joel and I want to, connect and all that good stuff. So,
well, it's not your normal seminar. If you maybe sometimes go to other seminars, they might list what you're doing for the day. Like we're working on this and this hours. You just don't have an idea of what's going to happen. He probably assesses the room, or maybe Guru Dan takes requests, or if it is at Guruk's Faye, he might say some things he'd like to see. You can kind of guess what might happen. You might do weapons the first, you kind of guess, but you just don't know. And so that's kind of the difference, unless it's specifically stated. And so it's kind of like a nice little surprise.
yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about the FATE program?
Sure. My FATE program is called Fighting Against Trafficking and Exploitation. So again, it's this fate, we don't want it to be your fate.
Yeah.
I've done a lot around anti-trafficking and exploitation the past 20 years. And so what I found is when I did a lot of self-defense seminars, that's when things would come out. Someone was bullied, harassed, experienced violence, attacked. This is happening to my nephew or niece or whatever. And now I almost was expected to be an expert in every area, So that's when I always started connecting resources. So if someone, they felt comfortable, they're vulnerable, they now know what maybe trafficking is, or they know what violence is, or that's not acceptable to be abused or groomed. And now what do you do? So to be able to pass them on to somebody else where they can get the help they need, and teaching parents. So now with things online, people can get to you on your phone versus like it was the guy in the van that was going to come get you when we were younger.
Yep.
So people are exploited at a higher level and trafficked. And so when I started doing self-defense programs, I started integrating the education on what trafficking was and grooming and predators, and developed that program so they get the educational piece, and we could connect with other agencies that could use what we did as a way to educate and prevent and bring awareness. It was very simple. There's a lot, it's very expensive to do anything in that arena.
Yeah.
Especially with survivors. And then again, survivors like domestic or sexual, like people like, it's a healing portion too. Maybe they didn't get to fight back and they get that portion of it. Or even working with people that are maybe actively working on the streets and how to defend themselves. It's just a little bit unique situation. A lot of times people don't want to talk about. So I created the program so that I had a platform where I could teach and integrate the educational portion. There would be a solution involved, and to keep training. These are the, situational awareness, understanding what things are, teaching parents, teaching educators. So again, that's why it's chain reaction martial art, that chain reaction, like, okay, you need to go take this. I have to be able to understand it. And you're kind of teaching them how to teach. So we've taught this with a group. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I what I'm hearing is that Fate became like an offshoot of doing self-defense, and people were asking, and so it kind of spread out, if you will, a little bit. So if someone is going to bring you in for, let's say, a seminar, and let's say we're going to do self-defense, but they're interested in Fate, would you put like an hour of your Fate program in there? How is it all tied together?
Usually with Fate, they want to talk about trafficking. They want to talk about exploitation, or maybe it's a group that's actively doing something, or maybe it's a church. But now they want not just the awareness, they want a solution tied to it. How can I protect myself? How can I protect my family? So giving them the educational piece, whether they're, learning from a slideshow or they're learning as I'm speaking, you're talking for a little bit and then you're actively having them do scenarios or working with their children or whoever they're working with to integrate that part, the educational part of it. And so, I have about 2 or 3 components. And we're also creating like online courses for it. because
Okay.
people want it.
Yeah.
And so, if that makes sense.
That makes
And then, yeah, because it's actually like in a solution. I have something here. I don't have to just talk about it. We can actually do something, about it. It doesn't cost like a lot of money to do it. Like I don't have to build a safe house. I don't have to, I can just start something simple where it's like, okay, what do I do now? Well, refusal skills and, body language, understanding all those other components that you need that tie into prevention. I mean, it is a preventative tool, not just awareness, like the warning signs and signals, and that's where sometimes martial arts and self-defense instructors fall into those categories as a solution and that you should know about. And a lot of people don't have some of that covered. Maybe they don't know how to teach about predators or, usually the situation is like three things. Someone's going to jump out of the bushes. You're going to be raped. There's only like 3 or 4 scenarios in people's mindset, understanding boundaries can go many different directions, whether it's family, intimate partner, online friends, things like sextortion, kids themselves extorted online. It's just not that has to be like self-defense, but what happens when all these other things happen, and teaching parents how to speak to their kids. So when you do kind of a team building activity with a parent and a child, the kid, their parents more, they maybe feel like they can talk to them, and so it's just all these win-wins happen. You're creating that environment so people can talk and they didn't feel like they could. So you'll find that in teaching, people start telling you things, maybe things you don't even want to hear. Like they will tell you lots of stuff, and because it's very healing. I'm being bullied at school, or my grandpa touches me, does weird things. You start talking about things that, body autonomy and understanding what that is. They didn't even know that they could even do anything or say anything. And creating safe adults and what that looks like. So maybe the kids can connect with me because I'm their teacher. I have the kind of mom effect, but I'm still their teacher. They have like another adult they can talk to other than maybe their parents. Maybe it's their parents that are abusing them. So it's very all encompassing, but it's been great.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and thank you for doing that. That's an important service that needs to be out in the community. And, in teaching a class, we have to be versatile. And
Yes.
that's in martial art. If we add this piece of trauma and self-defense, we need to be able to try to be as versatile as we can. And that's what I'm hearing from your programming, and it sounds just great.
Well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a law enforcement person. I'm not a social worker. Sometimes people look at you and expect certain things. And that's a lot what happens with a lot of anti-trafficking agencies. They want them to fix these things. They want them to provide services. And so being very clear is it's a really hard thing to be a part of because there's just so much stress, being a for-profit and nonprofit world. A lot of agencies maybe don't like each other, and I don't know. There's a lot more negative sometimes than positive. So when you can get people to work together, it's a win-win. It's so needed. There's just never enough.
It is hard to get people to work together.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely.
It is, put it aside and start connecting.
Yeah. At Chain Reaction Martial Arts in Minnesota, not Michigan.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. How do you encourage an environment to be a good partner?
I like a training partner.
Training partner, yes. Kind of switching gears, but
like children or just anybody in general?
Anybody in general.
Well, that's why we play ball before class.
Okay.
We have ball, softball. This is more for the kids. Sometimes the adults will play. You come in, you can roll the ball, you can bounce the ball. Some kids like to throw it up in the air, like cause and effect, or they'll whip it too hard. Or they won't play with it, they'll run away with it. You're going to learn how, you're going to learn, little Jamie, you're going to learn how to play with other kids.
I don't want to.
I knew it. I knew it the first day I saw you. So that's my gauge. It's like they play ball, but it's my assessment to see how they're acting or feeling. Can they play together? Then they start making up their own games together. It's kind of fun. So now they can start training with someone. When they're really little, 4 and 5, it's just they don't do as much partner training. I think 6 is kind of the magical age. 6 and 7, they'll do a little bit of partner work, based on maybe their ability level and focus. But yeah, like pad holding, they may not do it till they're a little bit older, for each other, like 7. Just because when they're so little, it's just, they can barely, hold it together sometimes at that age, we just keep it simple. But that's life skills. You're going to have to work with someone, play with someone, switching partners, playing games where they have to interact with each other. We play like a lot of games. Like we play a game like belt defense. They grab the belt and they have to break the grip of the belt. So you might have someone come up and then it makes them have to fix their belt or how to tie their belt. So they'll play games where they have to like play with each other, or there might be a certain technique they have to do to someone and they have to stay in the game. And then they can kind of move to partner drills after that. With adults, you may not have someone that's kind of like, like they're
stiff.
They don't want to move. They're just like, well, yeah, I might put them with Miranda or put someone's experience. It takes some time just to relax or.
Miranda, do you give them the business? No?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like
all
they
right.
might freak out. Be like, okay, Miranda, you can work with this person for a few minutes. It takes time. It's just another skill you have to develop, holding pads or like being a good partner. Or, like it's a learning experience. If you're a jerk to someone, guess what? They're going to be a jerk back to you.
Cardinal rule of martial arts.
Yeah.
He
So
goes
that's
next.
What it is. Do you think they're going to be nice to you? So play nice with others. It's just.
And using your voice too.
Using your voice. Yeah. I mean, that can, like, sometimes I'll teach stuff in the kids class and we'll do it in the adult class. Like, it's like a game. It's just fun. And the adults love playing the games, by the way. It's like fun. It's just, we forget to play as adults. And that's what you get that play. And again, a play does not mean like being, like screwing around or being immature. I always keep it that way, that fun element, because you learn in the play. That's how it is with kids. They just think they're playing half the time. They don't even know half the time that they're doing martial arts sometimes. Because then they're excited. They're like, oh, this is cool. They still learn, but I don't know. I'd rather play myself.
Yeah.
I probably don't want to just sit and hit like a bag 50, 500 times. I probably want to get my repetitions in other ways. Yeah. So the repetition's important. High levels of reps. How can I produce that? I'm always looking, always coming up with new ways. So
masking repetition to the best of our ability and having fun with it, because that's the rub, right? It takes how many repetitions to get it into the muscle memory, which now we know isn't really muscle memory, but
yeah, this takes time.
Yeah, a great many. So if you were going to give a new student in martial arts advice, something simple that they can do in the next 24 or 48 hours, right? Maybe even look at something different, get somebody to maybe move around more. But could you give us a simple piece of advice that you might tell a new student? Deana, as well as Miranda, I'm interested in your take too.
Kids or adults or both, like parents. Like, who am I talking to?
Whoever you'd like to talk to.
I would say a lot of times if it's going to be going into a class, just do not be afraid to try it. Like a lot of kids are used to phones on them, and like adults feel very self-conscious. Most people are intimidated to get on the mat.
Yeah.
It's like just go out there. That's the most empowering thing you could do. If you know about the art, go watch some YouTube videos. If you want to learn a couple things, you could do some like conditioning or stretching. Just be ready. Get some sleep, drink some water. You might be conditioning. You might exhaust your brain the first day. Come back. Don't let the first day intimidate you. It takes a couple weeks to get it. So commit to at least 2 weeks and then make a decision.
I like it.
That's usually what it is.
Yeah, come back. I like it. Yes, Miranda, talk to us.
Well, the first thing is that just don't be afraid. is the first thing. I know it can be like intimidating, but as long as you try it, I think you'll be okay. And don't be afraid to ever like ask questions either
Right.
too. Because say you just don't know something, just don't be afraid to ask. And watch videos, like you said.
Right.
And try to stay committed.
These were the best answers ever. Okay? Don't be afraid. Try and come back.
Yeah.
Those are like simple statements that we can kind of give people sometimes. I don't know about you, but I can use too many words in my empowerment sometimes. And I know, like, when I'm leaving and I'm like, make sure you come back. Yeah, don't be scared to come back. Right? It's okay to fail, ask questions.
Yes.
All that stuff that at the beginning of at least my martial arts journey in probably your mom's, that wasn't okay necessarily. You're supposed to show up, not ask questions, make it look real,
Right.
real good, do it just a certain way, and if it can't look just like that, go home, practice, and come back, right? So in your generation, it's really neat. Great answer, Miranda. Well done. Well done. You too, Deanna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to, no, this is probably the best part of my life. It's just, she gets to, that she even likes being part of my world. I mean, a lot of kids won't do it. And all I expected from her was to learn how to defend herself. I didn't expect her to continue on the journey, I was also teaching at gymnastics school before I had this school, and she was helping me. She was very young. And so, but it was fun. The gymnastics school was so much fun. We go play in the pit, we get to learn gymnastics. So I kind of missed that part. It was a great compliment to that school at the time. It kind of closed down, but that was a lot of fun because we do like our martial arts, then go do some gymnastics with it. So yeah, I'm just very lucky. And I want people to train with your family if you can. Some people like it for themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I have one mom, she's in the, women's kickboxing. The dad trains in the adult class. I train the kids. They sometimes like their separate time. I think they don't want to be together, maybe not. It's okay to have things for yourself, but provide some training, take a piece of that and give it to your kids, even if it's just something simple, or your wife. It doesn't have to be your children. It could be your friends, grandma. I mean, I challenge you like, oh, you think you're so great. Can you go teach grandma? What can you offer the people around you? And why are you not teaching them? And that's usually my thing. Why are you not teaching your family how to defend themselves? Even if it's just super simple. That's my big thing.
We're so blessed to have Kali as that art, because there is something for everybody. There just is. No matter what it is, there is a piece of that. It's so comprehensive and so full. We're so lucky.
Yeah, well, and during the pandemic, I was able, my system, what I'm doing, I can change whatever I want. I worked for a chemical company, so it was great. I could disinfect everything and make new rules and be like, okay, we're going to train at this range for a while for the next 6 months. You're going to be very proficient in it. And some places couldn't. This is your curriculum from 1970. You can't deviate from it. I can assess the room and change it if I want. You always keep the core, but I had to completely change my entire curriculum. And it was not fun, but we kept going. Not many schools were open, and we took people in and kept going. So I just baptism by fire, So
as if there's any other way, really.
Yes, that's kind of how Kali is. It's just like one of my other classes. It's it's all levels, so you just have to kind of jump in. It's just sometimes you put people together based on skill. Sometimes you'll put someone together, they should teach someone else because that's how they learn it. They develop patience. So in Kali, you're constantly teaching someone else. It's not just always the teacher and the because you're doing so many partner-based drills, you have to teach someone else as an adult. If you're in an adult class. So that's the biggest thing.
So many groups probably started that way because I mean, in order to do this, most of us had to do a lot of traveling. And then when you came back to your town, there's probably nobody who really was doing that. Right? And you were lucky if you could. So if you could get one person to go home with you like practice and then screw it up really good, that would be about as good as it got sometimes, you know?
Well, people do have YouTube. They can look at something and see if, I mean, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you can look at it. Like if you've trained for a while, you can look at something and go, okay, that's where you do supplementary training does help. You can, and then when you meet up with your instructor, I'll bring her with. I'll be like, look at this, fix any bad habits I have, watch this, watch her. Guru Mike's just like Guru Dan. He's just I'm like, no, fix it. Tell me what's wrong. Like I'm doing this weird thing, or I had an injury and I start doing this weird. You don't want your students to pick up your bad habits if you do something. So if I'm like, you need to tweak this, or your eyes are on me, you can see, like, is my energy wonky, And so he can take a look at us and assess us. So we need that accountability of, to what we're doing.
Yeah.
But he's just always so nice,
Would do you think it's nice or a method to the madness sometimes of not correcting, right? Maybe giving a small thing and then letting us go back and play with it?
Well, yeah, I think there's two folds. If you do too much overcorrecting, then you never train. Okay. Like if you're just like, if I picked you apart for like an entire hour, you didn't get a workout in, you didn't get to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other spectrum when you never get corrected and now you have bad form or you're not doing something right. There's a balance. Once you've had some training, that's where you start to go, okay, adjust this, fix this, and just kind of give them in spoonfuls, okay, this is what you need to work on. And that's the way to do it. You hold the big pads, you're hitting it, you making sure they're just not hurting each other, whomping on each other, and then they start holding their hands up, they start figuring out what's going on, or they don't know what a stick is, or they trip over their feet. That's fine. We've all been there. We've all done something that's how you learn, If you're not good at something, you just didn't spend enough time at it. That's all. You just have to spend the time doing it. The problem is people don't want to spend time at anything anymore. That's the challenge. So
yeah.
So yeah, I do think you should definitely have a method of
the balance. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely. Sometimes I struggle when I'm working with student, right? And I try to give them one thing, right? And then that ends up being now the crux of their experience. So no matter what we're doing for the next 3 months, they're accentuating that one thing. And then sometimes I'm like, well, let's just go back and do the drill, right? And then we're going to figure out where your hand's at in the midst of this, right? Where your feet are in the midst of this, because they have now their gospel truth thing that is right or wrong.
Right.
And for the student whose sole, is to do it right and not wrong, then they're trying to maybe blend those things together. And sometimes I think it gets confusing.
I have people in my adult class. I give two options. You can follow a structured path, or you could just come to training group. I have people that have just trained and they don't want to pursue a belt. And so it just lets them train and do their thing without being like, I have to look at a list and be like this. They just like to train. I have people that train other arts. So sometimes I get people and maybe like they're not doing what they're supposed to, but they maybe are in their style. And I just kind of leave them where they're at. Where it's like, okay, if you're going to test for this in this style, this was where you'll have to adapt.
That makes a lot of sense. Same thing.
Yeah. So some people I just leave alone. They're just trained, like as adults, they're just doing their thing. And, I don't know, as long as they're doing it and it's fine. It depends on what their goals are. If you're following a structure where you're going to be tested and you're going to have to change to the style, then you're going to be like, hey, if you want to be at this level, I need you to do this. And then, and that's hard. It's hard for me to say that that's not working. It can be painful sometimes.
Oh, for sure. But it's relationship though, right?
But it teaches you patience. Not everybody's journey is going to be in like 2 seconds. So it's just a process. It's fine. You just, I think after years of teaching, you just know what works and what doesn't work.
And you have to assess it on the spot and sometimes switch it up and all that. And I mean, we are so lucky to follow way behind in Guru Deana and Osana, who is the best at switching it up, building those relationships, making people feel comfortable, and bringing the best out of them. Right? That's
well, when you have to be functional at all ranges, kicking, punching, like clench, trapping, and ground. It's a lot of stuff.
It is
to cover a lot of ranges. And so most places stay in like maybe 1.5. So you realize, oh, wow, this is like a lot of material. And nobody's going to train like I do. So you just have to make some decisions based on who you're working with and what their goals are and what the program's goals are. So.
And that's important. Like what I heard is relationship and, sometimes listening. The beginning level of teaching is you doing a lot of talking. And then at some point you start listening and you're like, oh, at least in my case, I'm like, oh, if I would have just said it like that the first time, like one sentence, maybe the thing that might click to that student, so does that make sense?
Yeah, and it depends on what type of classes people are used to. If they're used to kind of like a traditional class where you line up, you bow in, and you're going to follow the instructor, whether it's like an aerobic class or a martial arts class, you're marching up and down the floor, or you're doing calisthenics, where we might, and maybe kick the bag, kick pads, where, maybe you have a class that's heavily dependent upon a partner, that might be a more mature audience because maybe they're not even ready for that. So a lot of times people maybe expect almost like an aerobic studio, like you're following along, maybe that's all they've ever had, where it's like maybe punch in the air or kick in the air, and
maybe
and
just everybody will be watching Deana then, and I can be in the back, and
yes.
Nobody will watch me on my first day.
Right, that's how a lot of people see martial arts classes. Yeah. So unless they're sparring or doing some one-step type stuff, and so when you train in these other, train with a weapon, you move within ranges, and it just, some people just said that's really weird to them or foreign. So it's a unique way of learning. And if you have to, sometimes you teach and you're like, wow, this isn't working, and you go back to a different style of teaching. You just do. Like
that's the group's not getting it, to me.
And like they're not getting it, or they're not training well together. They're struggling with following directions. I always give the rules before class. I never assume anything, especially when working with new people. Like, you don't hurt people. And literally talking to you like probably like you're 8, basically. I don't care who you are.
I get that a lot, Deana. It happens.
Well, you might be 8 to me, maybe 8.5. No, I just never assume, because people crank on each other, hurt each other. They don't listen. Mm-hmm. But they're not used to it. They're not used to stopping and focusing, and it just takes time. Yeah. You're just teaching a seminar, so you have to find unique ways to get people's attention, and especially big groups, and you have to have all that laid out, especially teaching a fast seminar teaching versus your ongoing curriculum where you're teaching a class. So, and to learn all those different styles of teaching, wow, that was fun.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. One thing, I usually at this point ask if there's anybody you would recommend for the show.
I actually watched Michelle's interview. I thought it was really good. I think Carlos would be a great person. Carlos Flores, my training partner, like Guru Ashlyn Johnson, or my instructor, or Michael Millie. There's a lot of people out there that I would definitely recommend.
I really appreciate that.
What's nice about Carlos is I stayed at his house. Actually, a friend of mine, we both went out there and did their Beat the Crap Out of Cancer. We stayed at his house. It was so fun to stay at his house. His family is amazing. He's just like the nicest person. And that's when he was kind of starting new in the Dog Brothers. So he's just really taken it to a whole new level with them. So I went out to the Dog Brothers because my friend I trained in college with, he did judo and I did Kali, and we taught at his frat in his basement. Like I taught Kali and he taught judo. And so he was out in California and we had connected in like 2011. He's like, hey, you should come out and fight. So that's why I went out there. So it's kind of funny. And then you meet all these people. Mm-hmm. And then I met Carlos. So he's in the Midwest. So he would host all the events. And he's just great. I think he's like a therapist. The guy is just phenomenal. And he's a family man. He's got twins. He just has kind of a unique, I like he has like a family perspective. And he totally let us stay in his house. That was a lot of fun. So he's just very open with the martial art, and he's very fit. He teaches everybody. Like he'll teach ladies at the gym, like CrossFit type place. And he's teaching them like Dog Brother fundamentals. I mean, talk about infiltration. You know what I mean? It's awesome. He's definitely bringing Kali to the mainstream public, and that's huge. So I would definitely consider him. It sounds like everybody has an A for them. Hi, Carlos. You're super awesome. So.
Yes, Carlos, and you're going to hear from me very soon. I want to say that We're on, this should be episode 30. And I asked that question in every episode, and I've never heard such good things about one particular person from more than one person. Literally the same thing. And I can't wait to get Mr. Carlos Flores on the show. So we will be contacting you, sir.
Yeah. He's brought Mark Denny in. I mean, the original Dog Brother stories.
Mhm.
I mean, they came out of Gurdan. So he's kept it up. There's a legacy, and he's done everything with it. And he could probably share all the great stories, I'm sure, from beginning to end. It's definitely, you get that different style difference and aspect of it. So, and in functionalizing the art, it's never easy. How do we handle stress inoculation? How do we handle pain? It's just a lot what happens when you see a weapon or sparring. And what type of stress inoculation are we doing? And that definitely does that. When you do that kind of fighting, your opponent is you. You're your worst partner. You're the person you're dealing with. You're exhausted. Putting on a fancy mask sucks. I can't see. I have a lazy eye. Like, it sucked. I lost a lot of my peripheral. It's
an experience.
You're taking it higher level. I'm sure with higher contact is usually their thing. So it was pretty cool.
I am looking forward to having him on the show and learning a little bit more about the Dog Brothers martial art. My editor, after Michelle's interview, was like, can you tell me more about this Dog Brothers thing? And I'm looking forward to having Carlos on.
Yeah, it'd be great to kind of segue into that, since people have gotten a taste of that. They want to know more about it. It's definitely, I think everybody should check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very neat. Miranda, did you have some fun today?
Yes, I did.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show and experiencing this. And we're really excited to kind of watch you grow in martial art and see where you take this thing. Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
What made you want to continue martial arts? Many times the instructor will have a kiddo and will put him in, but they don't always want to continue. But for you, your mom said that's your choice. And yeah, tell me why.
Well, she's a big inspiration to me, and she's done so much for so many people. I want to contribute more to that journey.
Thank you.
That's the best answer ever. And there's no other way. That's the best way to end the show, was with Miranda's wonderful words to her mother. So this is Jamie Sparling, Affinity Martial Arts and Wellness Head Instructor, FormABLE Podcast, here with Guru Deana Larsen of Chain Reaction Martial Arts and her daughter Miranda, who is also teaching at 16 years old. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. We're going to have you on once again, and leave us a comment and let us know what you think about the show. You can leave us a question, and we'll do our best to get you an answer. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time on the FormABLE Podcast. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie.